Welcome, Pewter Report readers, viewers, and listeners to a brand new edition of the Pewter Report podcast brought to you by our friends over at Brier, Grieves Insurance. Protecting your assets starts with a company that you can count on. So whether it's auto, homeowners, flood, boaters, or business insurance, there's nobody better in the insurance business to work with than the great people over at Brier Grieves Insurance. For more information about them, visit their website at briergrievesinsurance.com or give them a call at 813-876-4166. That's 813-876-4166. We have another emergency podcast for you, Bucs fans and Pewter people. So we are live from the Advent Health Training Center. Matt Matera and Scott Reynolds on hand for you. News is this is good breaking news, and we said last time we got to stop meeting like this talking about season-ending injuries and all of these different things, but we have some good news, and it is about the return of Chris Godwin Jr. when we can expect him to come back. Scott, this is some fantastic news that we learned from Adam Shepard, who reported earlier today that the plan is the Bucs are going to take Chris Godwin Jr. off of the PUP list when the regular season begins right after Labor Day weekend. He's going to start practicing in week 2, but that doesn't mean he's going to play in week 2. Right. They want to ramp up his workouts, him running routes, getting in football shape, which Todd Bowles spoke about after practice today. And then the hope, the plan, the idea is that he will start playing in October, which their first game in October is week 5 against the Seattle Seahawks. Which is that nice throwback game with the Bucs throwback uniforms and Seattle's throwback uniforms. But the biggest news, and it's good news, is that we finally have a timetable, a time frame for when Chris Godwin Jr. is going to return and play in a Buccaneers uniform. Yeah, we in the media, we were talking about possibly seeing Chris Godwin transition from the training camp PUP list to the regular season PUP list. The problem with that from Godwin's standpoint is that he wouldn't be able to practice with the team. You're not allowed to practice with the team. You're not allowed to play in the first 4 games. That's automatically kind of wiped out. Now, Chris Godwin's not expected to play in the first 4 games of the season. As you mentioned, and as Adam Shepard reported, probably not going to see action until October. But the fact that he will be able to be out there on the field with the team, going through even some walkthroughs initially before getting out there, that's valuable. He knows the offense from last year, right? He was a star in this offense for the first 7 weeks of the season. He was. But getting that timing down with Baker Mayfield is important. Learning and actually going through the routes that are new, that Josh Grizzard has put in for this year, the little twists and wrinkles from the Liam Cohen playbook last year, that's critically important. So this is very good news for Chris Godwin. What it does mean is the Bucs, like Tristan Wirfs, we're expecting that to happen as well, will carry Godwin on the 53-man roster. It essentially means with Chris Godwin and, as expected, Tristan Wirfs, they will be on the active roster. That means instead of having 53 guys, they'll technically have 51 that will be able to play at the start of the season. But this is really good news. It gives us a real solid light at the end of the tunnel in terms of when we can expect Chris Godwin back, because this was a big mystery. This entire training camp is are we going to see Chris? Are we going to see him out there even running on the field? We haven't seen any of that. He's just basically been watching practice in street clothes. But now we have kind of an end date for this recovery process. And it doesn't come as a surprise. If you watch my Pewter Pulse video from a couple weeks ago, I talked about how Paris Warren suffered a similar broken ankle, a dislocated ankle with a fracture way back in 2007. And it literally took him 11 months to get back and see the field again. So this is not an 8 or 9 month recovery. This is more like an 11 or 12 month recovery. And this is certainly good news. The cavalry is coming. For Josh Grizzard. This is interesting timing too, of course, with the news about Jalen McMillan, that he's likely going to be out until really the bye week when the Bucs have week 9 off. So not that they were trying to rush back Chris Godwin, but they could certainly use his services and would like to have him back as quickly as they can get him. Now, we did speak to Todd Bowles after practice today, and he's still kind of keeping it mundane. He's keeping it kind of, casual and regular that he still needs to get into football shape.
Right.
He still needs to get up to speed, and he'll be ready when he's ready. He'll come back and play when he's ready. So while the plan is October, that doesn't mean put in your calendar week 5, they're going against the Seattle Seahawks. That's when Chris Godwin Jr. is going to make his return. That's just the overall target date. And at some point in October, he will be playing. So this is so important for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on so many different levels. He's still crucial to this team. Even Tez Johnson, who spoke today, talked about how Chris Godwin Jr. has been one of the people that's really been bringing him along and being helpful and being a leader in the locker room, even though he's not participating in practice. And one of the best points of value for Chris Godwin Jr. has always been leading by example. I'm sure it's crushed him that he can't lead by example. You know, he was the guy that would be at every OTA practice. He'd be at every training camp practice, not taking a day off. But he's working hard behind the scenes to get back. And then, you know, we'll see him start practicing sometime soon as well. So I think this current duo with Mike Evans, Emeka Egbuka, Sterling Shepard, Ryan Miller, however they want to fill out the rest of the wide receiver room, this can certainly keep the Bucs. I mean, more than keep the Bucs afloat. This team can still get by without Chris Godwin and Jalen McMillan for the first couple of games. And then whether it's against Seattle or San Fran or Detroit, whenever Chris Godwin does come back, it'll just make the team that much better.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they have Chris Godwin come back for that home game against the 49ers.
Right.
Not that he couldn't be ready or wouldn't play against Seattle. It just, to me, that seems like the game where he's probably going to be all the way back. It might be sooner. Who knows? We're still, the window is open, right?
Yes.
And we'll see what time he's ready to go into action. But maybe that 49ers game at home would be a fantastic time for him to return. Matt, you threw out something in our podcast too. Not too long ago, you were talking about that Lions game on Monday Night Football.
Right, because it's week 7, Monday Night Football, like you just said. I don't know if it's serendipity or poetic or whatever you want to call it, but let's remember when Chris Godwin Jr. got injured last season and was out for the whole year with that dislocated ankle, it happened week 7. Monday Night Football. Now, a little bit of a different circumstance. That game last year was home for the Bucs in Tampa at Raymond James Stadium. It was against the Baltimore Ravens. This is still week 7, Monday Night Football, but on the road against the Detroit Lions, a different team. But it certainly seems like it would be poetic for him to come back on a Monday Night Football game in the same week where he got injured the year before. And let's not forget that Chris Godwin had a pretty damn good game against the Detroit Lions the last time they went against each other last season in week 2. So I would love to see him earlier. I'd love to see him in Seattle or at home against San Fran. But for the storyline, think about how ESPN will build this up. Chris Godwin, he's coming back. He's returning. All of this stuff. I think that would be a cool storyline for Chris Godwin Jr. if he does return in that Monday night game against Detroit.
Well, he got injured on October 21st. That Monday night game you're talking about is October 20th. So it would have been 364 days. And again, I'm with you, Matt. I believe that there's some real serious depth on this team at wide receiver.
Yeah.
Going into week 1, you have Mike Evans. You have Sterling Shepard, too, who has had a really good training camp. He caught a touchdown against the Falcons last year in Atlanta. He looked fantastic against Pittsburgh. He's been healthy all camp, knock on wood.
He has.
And has really been a phenomenal player. He really is kind of like the engine of the Bucs wide receiving group. Tez Johnson was talking about him being one of the funniest guys.
Yes.
And he just brings so much energy to that room. He's 32 years old. And Mike Evans just turned 32 today as well.
Yeah, happy birthday, Mike
Evans.
Mike. Celebrating his birthday today. Did practice today, too. I thought maybe he would have the day off because he's been getting veteran days off. But no, he comes out, makes some one-handed catches, and participated in practice. But, yeah, I mean, with this group, Sterling Shepard has been such a lightning rod for this team ever since he joined. I mean, Baker Mayfield famously said last year that Sterling Shepard has a screw loose.
Yes.
But the craziness has kind of helped in a good way for this team, especially during this training camp, talking trash, being motivated, making plays in that game against the Steelers. And then, of course, helping out Tez Johnson, too, who will play a much bigger role on this team while Godwin and Jalen McMillan are out for a little bit.
For sure. And so whether Sterling Shepard is on the 53 or starts on the practice squad because he's a vested veteran and maybe they don't want to guarantee that base salary for the entire year. We'll see how the team chooses to proceed, but he will be dressed in week 1 because they can always elevate him from the practice squad for week 1 on that game day roster. So you have Mike Evans at number 1. You've got Emeka Egbuka, number 2, Sterling Shepard, number 3. We're going to see Tez Johnson featured. He could be wide receiver number 4. Got a sneaky suspicion that this team likes what Ryan Miller's done. He's a bigger body at 6'2", 221. He's a very good blocker. He's excelled at those wide receiver screen passes that we've seen. He, I think, has got a really good chance of making the team. They trusted him enough to elevate him a couple times last year during the stretch of the season. So he's got some game day experience, and he's even better this year. And then keep an eye on Garrett Green. This is a player that people in the front office really like. They see some Julian Edelman qualities because he was a quarterback at West Virginia, just like Julian Edelman was a quarterback at Toledo back in the day as a 7th-round pick of the Patriots, transitioning into the slot. Garrett Green, a punt returner, as well as a wide receiver. I talked to him after practice today. He's fired up about this last preseason game and what it could do for his chances of possibly sneaking on to the 53-man roster and, or at least being on the practice squad. I think either way, he remains in Tampa Bay. And the interesting thing is, if you missed our podcast last night, we had offensive coordinator Josh Grizzard on, and make sure you check that out at Pewter Report TV, our YouTube channel. Grizzard was great, and he was talking about the receiver position. He mentioned spots 5, 6, and 7. Could they keep 7 wide receivers? Well, yeah, they're going to keep,
because it will be 6 kind of with Chris Godwin.
Exactly. Chris Godwin will be on the active roster, will count, but certainly not be able to dress for a couple of weeks. So they very well could keep 6 wide receivers, with Godwin being one of those, or maybe even 7 with Godwin being one of those as well. We do expect Jalen McMillan to transition to injured reserve, and then he'll be available to come back later this season, hopefully before the bye, but we'll see how it goes. But again, the cavalry is coming. You've got Chris Godwin, Jalen McMillan, Tristan Wirfs. So 3 huge components for this offense, slated to return probably at different times throughout the season, but at least we have kind of like a supposed return date for Chris Godwin. Good news.
Finally, some good injury news for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Also, Rachaad White came back this week. Todd Bowles said that he was looking fresh. He's not going to play in the preseason game, but it looks like he'll be good to go for week 1 of the regular season, which is great to see. And all the wide receivers you mentioned, we're going to get a good look at them on Saturday night against the Buffalo Bills. I mean, Mike Evans obviously isn't going to play.
Right.
I think it'd be crazy to play Sterling Shepard. It seems like he's got that, that locked up, and he is a veteran, as we talked about. But everyone else that we mentioned, Miller, Green, Rakim Jarrett, the list goes on and on and on.
Harris, Jaden Smith.
Jacob Harris and Jaden Smith as well. Houston, if he can be healthy enough for the game. All of these players are going to participate. They'll work with Kyle Trask. Tez Johnson, of course, too. They'll work with Teddy Bridgewater, Connor Basilick, too. So this may be the deciding factor of who gets one of those last spots, depending on how good of a game. You have to balance practice and the preseason games, too. But, if Garrett Green has another game like he did the first 2 preseason games, he may sneak onto the active roster. If Ryan Miller balls out the way he did against Tennessee in that first preseason game, there are a lot of different variables and storylines that could dictate who ends up on this active roster after Labor Day weekend.
This can be a critical game, too, for a couple of forgotten guys. Trey Palmer, Cam Johnson. Both of those guys have missed the first 2 preseason games. This will really be their only opportunity to do it under the lights. I'll tell you what, I have covered a lot of preseason games for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, 30 years worth of preseason games, going back specifically. This preseason game, usually the finale is kind of like a scrub bowl.
Right. It's just get us to the regular season.
Yeah, but this game is going to be featuring guys like, probably Sean Tucker, Owen Wright, who's looked good in the preseason. Josh Williams, exactly. So there's actually going to be a lot of good talent that this team's practice squad probably is going to be as good as we've ever seen in Tampa. Some guys that legitimately can play in the NFL being on the practice squad. And that's been valuable because we've seen guys like Kayvon Merriweather come up, Ryan Miller come up last year. And and for a player like Garrett Green, who's transitioning from quarterback to wide receiver to punt returner, you need that year's worth of learning how to run routes and that continued development to really put forth, his best foot forward in training camp next year. And who knows, maybe he shows enough where he makes the team, but I think he's certainly locked in a spot for the practice squad as long as he has a good showing on Saturday night.
A lot of talent all over the place. Very much looking forward to seeing that on Saturday. Also, we're not done with podcasts.
That's right.
We have the podcast right now going on, and before we close up shop, it's important. We got to let everyone know that Larry Foote, the Bucs co-defensive coordinator and outside linebackers coach, he was wearing the shoulder pads again today at practice. Larry Foote is joining the show later on tonight. I believe it starts at 6 o'clock.
Yes.
We'll have Larry Foote on for about 20 to 30 minutes. So very excited to have this Super Bowl champion coach on the show and player as well. And on Friday, for our Pewter Insider, for our Pewter Platinum and Premier members, we will be evaluating Josh Grizzard's play calling. We had him on the show. Now we're going to dissect his play calling through 2 preseason games. That'll be Friday at 1:30. So very excited for all the content that's coming up on Pewter Report TV.
Before the game, I know where I'm going to be. I'm going to be at Walk-Ons in Wesley Chapel watching my Kansas State Wildcats against the Iowa State Cyclones. Farmageddon over in Ireland at the Aer Lingus game to kick off college football at noon. You should be there too, whether it's the Midtown Tampa location, Wesley Chapel, or the Lakeland location. Eat like a winner, drink like a champ. Best happy hour you're going to find in the Tampa Bay area. It's Thursday, which means they have 2 happy hours today from 3 to 6 p.m. and then from 9 to close, as well as a 3 to 6 p.m. happy hour on Friday. And don't forget, on Monday, hopefully it's another Victory Monday.
Yeah.
Matt, this is getting to be a trend that we all like. Happy hour from 3 p.m. to close, and of course, all-day happy hour on Tuesdays plus $5 Tito's. That's where you can get $3.99 domestic pints, $5 premium house pours, or happy hour wines, $5.49 to get you the big 22-ounce domestic drafts, $4 for the hush puppies or onion rings, $7 for the boom boom shrimps, or a half order of the waffle cheese fries. They fill me up. Or that spinach and artichoke dip that I love so much. $8 gets you the boneless wings or the cheeseburger sliders. Folks, you can make a meal out of the happy hour menu.
Yes, you can.
And you can find that at Walk-Ons. TVs galore, all of the college games and pro games this season. If you haven't been to Walk-Ons today, what are you doing? Get to Walk-Ons and enjoy some fantastic food, football, and fun.
The best food around that you'll find in the Tampa Bay area over at Walk-Ons. We appreciate everybody tuning in. You know, this is an emergency podcast. You never know when we're going to drop
But
them.
a good one.
Yes, but a good one. Yeah, on a positive note for sure. But that's why it's important to make sure you are following us on all of our social media on X, Facebook, and Instagram, where we will announce these emergency podcasts. That's at Pewter Report. And our YouTube channel, which you're on right now, is Pewter Report TV. Please like and subscribe. Leave a comment on this video as well. How excited you are that Chris Godwin Jr. is returning, at least with a timeline for when he's going to be back. That's a nice birthday gift for Mike Evans, his good buddy as well. And we have a lot of content coming up. It's not just emergency podcasts. We have regular podcasts, Pewter pregame show, the game day stream when the regular season gets here, the post-game podcast, Pewter Pulses, Pewter Picks and Props, top 10 takeaways, various other videos that go on as well with Inside the Bucs.
The best thing you can do is when you go to Pewter Report TV or YouTube channel, hit the subscribe button, but also hit notifications. That way you'll know when we go live with an emergency podcast or Matt puts up his Pewter Picks and Props. You want to make some money? Listen to Matty Diamonds when it comes to college and football, college and NFL picks. And when we have our Pewter Report podcast, sometimes at different times, we have to accommodate the coaches with their schedules. We had Josh Grizzard on at 7 last night and Larry Foote on tonight at 6 p.m. You'll be notified, so you won't miss any of our great content on Pewter Report TV. Hit notifications.
Okay, that's going to do it for us. Again, live from the Advent Health Training Center. We're very happy about these reports that Chris Godwin Jr. has a timetable for when he is returning. Going to be taken off the PUP list for the start of the regular season. Looks like he'll start practicing in week 2, and hopefully he'll be playing in games around October. So great stuff. Thanks for everyone that tuned into this show and checked it out. That'll do it for us. For Scott Reynolds, I'm Matt Matera saying thanks everyone for watching, and we'll see you soon later tonight, this afternoon, for another edition of the Pewter Report podcast. Out.
Out.
Happy birthday.